news items that we're waiting on, lots of ones which are already broken, which are going to affect everything you're going to want to do today. I'm Chris Spags, joined as always by one of the smartest men in the world of NBA analysis, Mr. Fast Eddie Fear. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm extremely well, and yourself?
I'm good. I'm ready. Tuesdays are my Mondays with you. So this is like the first day of the week we get to hang. You guys are setting viewership records. I also missed out on your John Collins situation, which makes me sad.
Yeah,
I enjoyed.
and thank you for bringing that up again. But yeah, it was. I'm really not a contentious person. I try to avoid. I'm a softie. I try to avoid conflict. So people were coming out of the woodwork, which is interesting and all. It gave me a chance to talk about my process a little bit and talk to some people, and I in theory water under the bridge, but I think it's a good comparison point for things going forward, and I'm a big fan of feedback, so no worries to me.
I wish you were on the slate because I would have had a sneakier way of getting that in there, but instead I just had to bring it up.
Oh, Josh and I brought it up several times yesterday. Josh, they were on Josh about it on his morning show apparently, which is.
When you're a meme, you're a meme. You just got to embrace it, I guess.
Well, no, it was a good example to talk about some stuff because I had said because minutes limit, I'm much less excited. Obviously, there's still a ceiling there, but I would be under the field on him, and that was basically all I talked about John Collins. And then he went off and had a massive game. And then I think the whole reason the shitstorm came down is I was trying to be an understanding guy. One guy tweeted me a somewhat humorous tweet that said, if someone tweets at Fast Eddie Fear today that they won $100,000, I'm going to lose my shit or something. He got me off John Collins and onto Alex Len, period. You suck, period. To which I went, okay, that's kind of funny, retweet. And that's all I did. I didn't even comment. I wasn't like, well, unless I didn't defend myself, because I think it's the most natural reaction in the goddamn world. And you're going to get some right, and sometimes I retweet those, and you're going to get some wrong, and I like to retweet those too, just keep expectations at a good level. And then apparently, because of that, shouldn't have retweeted that from that guy's couple hundred followers to my however many thousand, because it got real interesting for a while. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is a safe zone where you can give all your thoughts. I mean, look, when you're talking about games, you got to talk about all the various angles, and people take away from it what they're going to take away from it. That is the name of the beast.
Too true.
All right, so let's talk about today. So actually, before we do that, you guys got some time right now. We have an hour. We're going to hit on a bunch of news items, of course, all the main things you need to know. But check our Twitter right now at Osmo_com. We're doing a giveaway. All you have to do is reply to it, retweet, tag 2 friends. You and 2 friends can win a month free at by just replying there. It's a little question about which sporting event you'd like to go to. Very simple question you have to answer. That's all you have to do. Just retweet it, tag 2 friends, and you and your 2 buddies can be swimming in the various DFS content we have at Osmo.com, all the ownership projections and rankings. So go do that right now. Follow at Osmo_com. Check the pinned tweet. It'll tell you everything that you need to do. So do that right now. Support our guy, Brett, our social media manager, who works his little butt off to make these little contests for everybody. So please do that. Support him now. All right, Eddie, let's talk about the games. Let's talk about Mr. Chalk today. Obviously, we're not going to spoil the Daddy Likes game coming up at halftime. But Ante Zizic, the man of the hour, every big on Cleveland out for the most part. I think they have 9 guys available today. What are you doing with Ante Zizic and this Cavs spot?
I like him. I have no issue getting away from him, and I don't like him is probably a slightly stronger endorsement than I want to give. I begrudgingly would probably play around half him, which I imagine is around what the field plays. I think there are some interesting pivots away from him at his price and position. I think there's a lot of other value that I really like. I will briefly hedge to say, especially on FanDuel where they function as drops, but even on DraftKings where they're cheap, I generally like the Bulls' value a fair bit. And my top 2 are Arcidiacono and Shaq Harrison. Shaq Harrison's been contentious in my conversations and mentions today. What's really interesting is I've gotten much more, well, that dude is just shit about him than I have about Archie. And I'm, by the way, putting my lifetime undefeated Arcidiacono record on the line here today. My hero call of the year was 1% owned Arcidiacono against the Spurs out of fucking nowhere before he went on his streak. And that was good times. I will go back at that again here today. Both of these guys are anemic fantasy basketball players, but Arcidiacono by far the shittier of the two on any sort of points per minute consideration. This year I have Ryan Arcidiacono at a vivacious .64 fantasy points per minute, and I have Shaq Harrison at .86. But somehow I keep getting infinite, like, that dude's not good. He's pretty good. He's actually a much better defender than almost everyone else on this team. Is an elite steals guy, which brings you some sort of upside. And the matchup is really, really pristine against this Lakers squad. So I like some of the studs. It is a rare, even on DraftKings, stars and studs night for me. And I don't mind $3,300 Arcidiacono next to $3,100 Wayne Selden. Without Levine, Wayne Selden, I said. I was thinking of Shaq Harrison. Wayne Selden comes in third on that list for me. Priced a little higher on FanDuel. Obviously, it's a different position. I don't have much of a difference between these three guys. I think right now I have Arcidiacono at 23.5 fantasy points, Shaq Harrison at 21.7, and Wayne Selden at a hair shy of 21. So, but those are all not dreadful if they hit those averages. Obviously, these guys make me much, much more excited on FanDuel, where you only need X minus one of them to get there. But, minutes and Lakers make me pretty happy. I currently have Arcidiacono at 31 minutes, Selden at 27, Shaq Harrison at 26. I'm fine with getting to some amount of these dudes in this matchup. Obviously, we like the Bulls overall. So all those guys, which is the starting five, plus an additional one. I like Dunn, Arcidiacono, Porter, Markkanen, Lopez, Harrison, and Selden. I like all 7 of those players. This is the team to which I would expose myself the most, were I able to this evening.
How many Bulls would be too many Bulls for you? We do have, actually got this question in the premium Slack from Z-Rob at the same time. So Good question. Getting a 7-point boost on their season average from Vegas. Obviously, no Zach LaVine out there means a lot of usage left behind. So how many Bulls would you be comfortable with, I guess, on either side?
I'm fine with 2 bigs and 2 littles, or 1 big and 3 littles. Like, if you want to run Arcidiacono, Selden, and Shaq Harrison and Markkanen, I have no issue with that lineup. Again, I'm more forgiving, obviously, on FanDuel, but 2 bigs and 2 littles. So if you want to have Porter and Markkanen, okay, don't have, I think, Porter, Markkanen, and Dunn. Don't have Porter, Markkanen, and Lopez. But if you want to have Porter, Markkanen, Shaq, and Arcidiacono, I have no issue with that. My issues with correlation really start to vanish when guys cost nothing. And even more so on FanDuel, where you can drop one of your nothings. So, I'll say 1 big and 3 littles, or 2 bigs and 2 littles are both the limits I would put on them. I think 2 bigs and 3 littles, you're probably starting to ask a little bit too much.
Okay, that seems fair. Tell me more about Lauri Markkanen and Otto Porter. I prefer Porter today. He's going to be a little higher owned. Markkanen, I'm worried about the rebounding. He's had single-digit rebounds in 4 out of the last 5, and to me, that was where he was getting a lot of his value. I think there's something structurally with how they've been playing him a little more out on the wing, as limiting his rebounding upside. But tell me what you think about those 2 guys.
Yeah, I'll like Markkanen more because he's going to be lower owned. Basically, I look at a decent ceiling game for him and Dunn and Porter, and the one who I really think would not shock me to catch 60 out of here would be Lauri Markkanen. Like, yes, the rebounding has been down. I do think it was actually artificially inflated for a while there. I mean, we were all jerking each other off talking about his rebounding rate, and it was stellar, but it was higher than you would expect it to normalize to over any significant period of time. So it's a little lower than I'd expect it to marginalize to over a significant period of time. But he and Levine are the guys who pull this truck with, Porter coming in as the 1B, 1C, depending on who's in there. And taking Levine out, I have as being like 5 extra shots for Lauri Markkanen, and that feels pretty good to me. So especially with him being less owned than Porter, if we're talking DK especially, the Porter price on FanDuel is fair. The Porter price on DK is exceptional, so I would slightly rather play Lauri between those 2 guys, but I really like them. I really like Chris Dunn at his DK price. I'm going to expect at least, maybe one of those guys will be bad, at least one will be good, probably one will be exceptional. I'm a fan of getting some amount of the Bulls, and I like the value there a lot. I think we can talk about the Cavs value as an interesting segue. I think I don't mind David Nwaba here. He's going to play 30 minutes. They play him at the 4, which is fun when you're playing him on shooting guard on FanDuel. But he's a drop guy. He does not have to be productive, but he's a guy who can do steals and blocks and the things that pick you up fantasy points in chunks. I think he's my favorite shooting guard punt on FanDuel, although I think Shaq Harrison might be the same position there. I think Shaq might be a 1 also, though. Shaq's a 1. Someone else is a 2. Anyway, I don't mind David Nwaba as a punt. Don't strongly advocate for him, but I can see that. I don't mind Brandon Knight, in a pace-up spot for basically the minimum. He's 3,500 both sites. Has looked really good his last 2 games. At some point, it's possible he recovers to being better than he has been. So, I can get behind that. Would you pair up Otto and Laurie or set a rule to have just one? I have no issue on DK. I don't think I have an issue on FanDuel either, where I ended up sticking with them both in my most recent version. Hold on, let me check GPP lineup. No, I managed to get around it. But small forward is so shitty on FanDuel outside of... You have like Giannis and punts and $7,500 Otto Porter. So I don't like playing Laurie and Otto together on any side. I think they more negatively correlate than positively correlate. On DK, Otto's just too low price makes me more tolerable of it. And on FanDuel, the state of the small forward position. Because the small forward is Giannis. You don't want to play LeBron. You don't want to play Gallo in a difficult matchup. 1,600 is a lot to ask for Bojan. Will Barton at 59, I guess, is fine in tournaments. Chetty Osman at 58 is paying up a lot, who, while he has a lot of opportunity and I'm fine with in tournaments, it does worse when you take Kevin Love off the court. The two of them correlate extremely strongly. Kenrich Williams obviously has floor. I like JJ Redick at 5,500, but obviously shot dependent and not the most consistent thing in the world. But he would get on the list of 5 or 6 of these guys I would ever really want to play. Mirotic has the best possible matchup, really. Could work out for him. I don't hate it. The price is way up on Mo Harkless at 52. Gary Harris at 48 has been inconsistent. Kevin Knox at 42 is starting to get exciting, but Pacers, and also he's Kevin Knox. That sounds super great. Dorian Finney-Smith, especially if our boy Luka is out, certainly makes some sense. Same thing with Keita Bates-Diop if Wiggins is out. But it's sort of shitty there, and then you're into the punts of playing either Ennis or Davis Bertans or someone else who isn't terribly good. So, for that reason, again, the reduced price on DK and the paucity of viable plays on FanDuel, I don't really mind you playing Laurie and Otto together on a marginal-sized slate.
All right. So you talked a lot of the small forward class we had there on FanDuel. I want to talk about a value guy, and I actually want to talk about the Lakers side in general because the rotations, I think, I'm curious to see what you think is going to shake out with Kyle Kuzma back in there, or expected back in there after practicing fully yesterday. Mo Wagner. What do we think about Mo Wagner? Because he's jumping out as probably my favorite play on the slate right now. I like what I've seen with my eye test as well. I think the usage rate's been looking good, 24% in his last 2 games since getting into the rotation. What are we thinking about Mo Wagner and the rest of the Lakers rotation?
Yeah, I like Mo Wagner a lot in tournaments on DraftKings. I think that's great. He'd be pretty far from my favorite play of the slate, which I have to imagine is Yusuf Nurkic by a mile in a football field, but sure. Somewhere down there I can go to Mo Wagner at 3,300. Plays power forward or center there, $3,300. There's obviously an upside to be hit. I don't know how much he plays. Like, I really am not surprised to see 16 minutes. I'm not surprised to see 28 minutes. I was not encouraged by seeing so many minutes for Rondo last game. That makes me, be concerned they're not all in on the youth movement and just giving the kids more time, make it more likely that they lose the games, etc. But I really like Mo Wagner in tournaments. He's great. I probably, in tournaments, would rather play him than Archie Diacono. I'd sit there and look at him and Shaq for a while. I'd rather play him than Selden, and we can talk about various. I'd rather play him than Nwaba. I'd rather play him than Knight. So, I like Mo Wagner quite a bit in tournaments.
Okay. What do we think about Kyle Kuzma being back in there? Is he a viable play, and who do you think he affects the most with his usage rate's been up there, but not doing a lot otherwise in terms of fantasy?
Yeah, I think he's quite viable. He obviously has a ceiling. He's clearly just tournaments. I don't know if the minutes are going to be there. I don't know if he's entirely unfettered by his recent struggles. But the matchup is great. So, yeah, he's certainly fine in tournaments. He will get the very generous ownership discount that people always put on guys when they're questionable during the day. So I like Kuzma quite a lot in tournaments. Who he hurts the most is a difficult question when we don't really know who's going to play however the hell much. LeBron's going to play, if the game stays close, 28, 32 minutes. Okay, we got that one down. Yep. I am really not confident throwing out many other numbers at this team. I have written down numbers. I can read them out to you, but I don't, it is difficult to love anyone. Like, you can play Rondo in a tournament. He plays 30-something minutes against the Bulls. Yes, you can get a dumb Rondo score. No problem. You can play Josh Hart on DK because he's cheap as hell, and it's the Bulls, and it seems pretty damn likely they're going to give him a pile of time. But, for the Kentavious Caldwell, Pope, Jonathan Williams, etc. of the world, you're taking a big risk when I have the Bulls guys out there and even the Cavs guys out there I like a little bit more. So for that reason, I don't feel like... And again, I to some degree, because of my practice playing fewer lineups, and to some degree because I specifically tried to contravene the earlier shows today, which, not today, but every day, tend to talk a lot more about MME. So there's a lot of, this exposure, this... If I'm playing 150 lineups, yeah, I'm going to have some of these other Laker guys sprinkled in there. But speaking towards I'm building a lineup kind of guy, it doesn't seem like the place I'd ideally want to go. I'd rather look across the ball at the Bulls. I'd rather look at the Cavs and even a couple other spots. A couple of the Spurs, I think, would actually get there before I start really dicking around with anyone beyond Wagner on DK of the Laker value.
Yeah, I think that seems fair. Rondo in particular also really worries me in particular. Only shot 7 shots in each of the last 2 games. I think if he's not under orders, he's making a choice where he's not going to shoot as much, I think,
Luka will
compared
play.
To where he was. Sorry, go ahead.
Luka will play.
Oh, okay, there we go. So how does that affect anything for you? Does that make Dorian Finney-Smith a less likely play for you now?
I don't think he's playable now.
Yeah.
Like, I guess as your 7th best $3,400 cash punt, I don't know. I don't... It's Dorian Finney-Smith in a not ideal matchup. I don't think there's a need to do that. I think he's a worse cash play than, say, Arcidiacono. I think he's a worse tournament play than, anyone who hits reliably at upside. So, yeah, that would take Dorian Finney-Smith, probably just out of play for me. That would probably take almost all of Dallas out of play for me. Like, with him out, you can start to get smatterings of Trey Burke. I would have had some interest in Tim Hardaway Jr. I suppose you can still do $6,300, I think, is the price on Powell today. Not the best matchup. The Spurs defense is much improved of late. So, yeah, I now like Luka a lot on DK. I don't think he's out of play on FanDuel. I would have him behind several cheaper guys of DeRozan and Jordan Clarkson, who's too cheap on FanDuel and can certainly bludgeon his way to an upside at that $5,200 price. He's in play on FanDuel. I wouldn't have an issue with anyone putting him in a tournament lineup. But I am projected for a hair shy of 50, I think 49.7, which is also almost exactly what he scored the first 2 times he played the Spurs this year. He literally had like 15.
Relevant question from Drop Tech Rune in the premium Slack. Would you go Markkanen or Doncic if you're choosing a fair-skinned European today?
Dirk.
Dirk not allowed.
Dirk not allowed. If price is irrelevant, I'm going to take Luka, certainly. If price gets factored in and I'm saving whatever it is, $500 or $600, I would have him pretty close to a dead tie.
Also, on the other side of this Dallas game, getting a question about LaMarcus Aldridge on FanDuel. For DraftKings, I find both Aldridge and DeRozan to be very uncomfortably priced. I think if you're going there, it's contrarian, but I really don't like where they are price-wise. But what about Aldridge on FanDuel and I guess the rest of the Spurs as well?
Yeah, having Gay out is a bit of a cookie for these guys, and this matchup can be pretty solid against Dallas, who can certainly give it up so sweet time to time. I mean, Aldridge I would have, of expensive power forwards behind Tobias Harris at his sort of deflated price on FanDuel without Jimmy Butler. I'd have him behind Lauri Markkanen, who's $600-700 less, but certainly not out of play. I like some exposure to DeRozan or Aldridge, but if you're asking me, Aldridge or Markkanen, I like having Markkanen a little bit more.
I got a question from our old pal Emac in the Slack asking Doncic or Giannis DK accounting for the price discount.
I'm going to take Giannis. There's no reason that you can't get 90 out of Giannis here. That's pretty unlikely out of Luka. Certainly not impossible, but Luka maybe not 100%, I think we can say. And the matchup versus the Spurs is supposed to, which again have been of a indeterminate and fluctuating defensive quality, but regardless is a shit ton worse than dealing with the Pelicans. So I'm more excited to play Giannis. Factoring in the price, obviously, which is $2,300 or whatever difference, does have it close. And points per dollar, I think I actually have Luka a hair higher. I do. But I'm still a little more excited to play Giannis. And that's a factor of it being more of a stars and scrubs slate to me. There's a lot of guys who I think have tournament upside who cost 3x. There's, probably 14 guys on DK I could look at who I think cost 3,900 down to 3,000, who I'm not surprised if get me 30 in this spot. And so at that point, I'm just really looking at guys to hammer home the largest numbers. So obviously you can have Luka in that lineup too, but just a little more excited to play Giannis. But it is very close. I think it's a very, very fair question. But just all the uncertainty in the matchups, I'm a little more excited to play Giannis.
And to close the loop on Wagner, though I'm sure we'll talk about him again, Sniper asking, do you guys like Wagner even with Kuzma on DK?
Well, without Kuzma, he was brilliant. Like, if Kuzma was out, he was my dude. He's probably my favorite value at that point, because I don't know how he doesn't play 26, 28 minutes, and maybe more, and they're going with the value, and the matchup is great, and like I'd have been all over Flaming Mo there if there'd have been no Kuzma. With Kuzma in, yes, I still like him on DK. I think they find time for him to get time at the 4 and the 5. I think they're going to start to invest more and more in the youth / we don't want to win basketball games movement. And so I still think he probably plays a good bit north of 20 minutes tonight, but now there's a lot of uncertainty. But the matchup is brilliant, and he's an effective producer, and 3,300, there's an upside there. So I still like him in tournaments quite a bit. But without Kuzma, I would have been all over him.
All right, Go Ducks 1986 has a question which I think is going to help us address one part of the slate we haven't talked about a lot of depth yet. Can we break down the top 4 price centers on FanDuel for a GPP? So you got Towns, who's going to be in now, it looks like. You got Jokic as well. Got Embiid.
Towns is going to be in? I hadn't heard that.
He's probable, at least, so it looks like he's going to be in.
Yeah, that's true. They did upgrade him to probable. So yeah, he's probably going to play. Yeah, I would have him well after Jokic and Embiid. Like, I have them all projected pretty similarly, and Jokic is $800 less, and Embiid is $1,400 less. I have Jokic projected actually pretty significantly the highest of those 3 guys by about 3.5 fantasy points. So for me, he said in a tournament. It's probably. I'm going to go through all the guys I'd like to play in a tournament. You may get more than 4 here, so maybe I'll pare it down after that. I don't have an issue with you playing Ante Zizic in a tournament. Obviously, there is some chance of massive foul trouble, but if that doesn't happen, they're going to play him 30-plus minutes. Like, he's going to play 30-plus minutes or foul out. I would give about 10-1 odds on that. Like, they just do not have dudes to play big other than they're going to do some ridiculous Cedi Osman at center bullshit, which I really can't imagine. So I still have interest in him in a tournament not because he himself, I mean, he's dealing with a fairly dreadful matchup against Joel Embiid. Although based on the way they do the rotations, he'll play, let's say, 33 minutes, and he'll get a dozen of those not against Joel Embiid, which might allow him to do some more work. But the guys I would like to play in a tournament would be Ante. You know, it's really going to be... No, I'll give you 4. Ante, Nurkic, Embiid, and Jokic. Towns, okay. Turner, probably 5 and 6. Mitch Robinson probably in there too, believe it or not, because he can still bang out some blocks. So he'd probably be 7.
All right. Top 3 shooting guards in FanDuel for cash. That's specific.
I imagine you're going to get a lot of punts here, but I will take a look. All right. All right, so the names that don't completely shock me, and I'll include the punts I like most for cash, would be... I'm just scrolling through the whole list because I don't want to answer the question to be not complete. There is Wayne Selden. I would generally probably slightly rather play Marco Bellinelli. Got 30 minutes last game, gets increased opportunity and minutes. I have him projected right now for 26, but he can still bomb away. And even in a cash lineup, I'd want to be a little more exposed to that upside there. So slightly prefer Bellinelli over him as my punt. Prefer Bellinelli to Okogie as my punt. You can play Wes Matthews against the Knicks in cash at 4,600. I'm fine with that. You can play Jordan Clarkson at 5,200. I'm fine with that. You can play Broggy Pants at 6. You can play Middleton at 71. And you could play DeRozan at 89. I imagine if I'm starting to build a lineup and you say pick 2, I probably want to pay down a lot, and I probably play Wesley Matthews and Bellinelli.
Interesting. Okay. Wesley Matthews, I'm not crazy about. I was a little heavy on him the other day, but he really hasn't broken 30 fantasy points since joining the Pacers.
And I don't intend him to, but he, excepting the last game, hit 20 fantasy points for the 8 consecutive before that. So
for cash, yeah, sure.
So, for cash, I'm in there. Yeah, for tournaments, no. I want much less to do with that guy. Although, if you're going to pick a spot in which Wesley Matthews is going to make 8 3-pointers, the Knicks could certainly be it, but... for cash, I think I'm on the double pay down there. There's no one at this position who I, feel safe is going to give me a great value. In tournaments, I really like DeRozan. I really like Lou Williams in tournaments every day. I wouldn't mind if you Chris Middleton in cash, and there's certainly an upside against New Orleans. You could talk me into Brogdon. He's a very cashy dude. In tournaments, I think even in this wretched matchup, you can Damian Dotson if he's going to take every shot under the sun. But yeah, cash, I'd probably run the double pay down and pay Wesley Matthews, who... I project for about 26 here, which feels fine. And Bellinelli, I think.
All right, before we hit the halftime Daddy Likes, here's one question for some people on FanDuel we're playing if we don't get this Timberwolves official news coming through. Roboshua asking, what's the right way to play Minnesota backcourt on FanDuel if we don't know the status of 3 starters? Assume they all sit and cap the backup value? ?
I don't have a problem with you playing Tyus Jones, I think is sort of what we're talking about here, right? What's Tyus cost on FanDuel? He's 38. I don't have a problem with you throwing Tyus in there and being like, I hope Teague doesn't play, because we don't know about him still as well, right? Am I correct that we're questionable on Teague, Wiggins?
Yep, Teague and Rose and Wiggins we're all waiting on.
Teague and Rose and Wiggins, right. So, go ahead and play Tyus Jones. Beyond that, I think you're probably being a little too cute, but I'm fine with you on FanDuel playing Tyus Jones right now. As he gets backup minutes and can totally, not entirely fail there, but it isn't a spot going into Denver that I'm particularly thrilled with, running out, pure provisionals like that. So, I'd probably rather play Shaq or Ryan, but if you want to put Tyus Jones in your lineup right now and think that he's going to go out and, and hope that he plays, I'm totally fine with that in tournaments right now. I think that's legitimately a strong play. I like that right now.
All right, we're at the halfway point of the show, so that is time to play the abridged version of America's favorite game, Daddy Likes. Of course, if you are not a premium member of Osmo.com, use the promo code LIVEBEFORELOCK. Get 50% off your first month. Get all the ownership projections and rankings from Osmo, who is the top player in the world, as well as rankings from Fast Steady Fear, projections from Josh Engelman, the deep dive article every day, which does a great job helping give people a basis to build a lineup. Use that promo code LIVEBEFORELOCK now. All right, Eddie, number 1 on the list. Ante Zizic, 44% expected ownership on DraftKings. How does Daddy feel about Mr. the Z-Man?
Yeah, I like it. I'll go higher. It isn't a good matchup, but Embiid is unlikely to actually eat him alive. He will still play in the blowout. He's been playing in blowouts much of the year when he gets the starts. And again, they got 9 dudes there. So you're going to have, Nwaba backing up Chetty at the 4, and you're going to have Fry backing up Zizic at the 5. I think he plays more than 30 minutes or fouls out. He's $3,700. Whatever kind of, I currently have him projected for 27 fantasy points, which again puts him above all those other guys in that class. So I'm fine with getting away from it. I'm also fine with getting away with it when I can, but I'm fine with getting away from it because he's obviously the most popular guy in the slate. There are guys who are so minted that even at 50% ownership, I'm like, nope, you should just suck that down. I'm largely ambivalent here, but I suspect I would have slightly more. 50-50 is about how I felt at the start of the day, so I'll stick with that and say that I like it.
All right, number 2 on the list, your boy, the Golden Arches, Ryan Arcidiacono, 37% expected ownership. How does Daddy feel about this?
I probably like that less. I like Archie. I like him in this spot, and I'm willing to, sort of say that I think it's good, but it is not a bizarre ownership. I would probably rather have Shaq Harrison, what do we have Shaq Harrison projected at? Because that's going to factor into my decision a bit.
Shaq, we have at 13% right now.
Yeah, I would rather play Shaq in tournaments for that reason. I suspect I'd be roughly evenly owned to them both in the 20% range. So I will go with disliking having 30% Arcidiacono.
All right, number 3 on the list. Otto, he loves to get Blotto Porter at 36% expected ownership on DraftKings.
No way,
I'm in favor of this one, but Somebody dropped the Simpsons reference for Flaming Moe's in the chat, and I think it got me thinking.
Yeah, I think I said Flaming Mo when we were talking about Wagner.
You did. So somebody dropped the YouTube video of it to compliment your reference. Yeah. Otto, number 3, 36%. How does Daddy feel about that?
It's a really good price. It's weird to say I think that I personally would have a little bit less, but that I still like it, but I'm going to do it anyway, because why not? I made this shit up. Yeah, that's really good. I have him projected for about 36 fantasy points and at $6,200. Or 64. I'm trying to remember his prices, but regardless, yeah, that's too good. So I like it. He is cheap enough that he is, the best guy on the best team. So yeah.
Yeah, and you were right. 6,400 is his price on DraftKings. Number 4 on the list, Yusuf Nurkic at 34%. How does Daddy feel about Yusuf Nurkic?
I want more. Yeah, love it. Look, he's this is the swan song for these two teams this year. This is the 4th time they played. Hasn't exceeded 40 fantasy points in any of the previous 3. I completely don't care. Was very point per minute effective in all 3 of those games, getting 1.3, 1.4 fantasy points per minute. It's just such a brilliant spot, and he's ridiculously too cheap. He is a little too cheap on FanDuel, to give you an idea, in this spot. By the FanDuel grade of scoring centers, if you're going to have Towns at 11.7 tonight, Nurkic should probably be a little higher than 9, but that's about right. $7,100 is just dumb. That's just a dumb low price, and he's capable of getting 70, and this would be a spot he could do it in, so I would have more than that. Pretty unlikely he could fail. It would have to be foul trouble. Outside of that, he's gonna make you proud.
All right, number 5 on the list. I don't think you're gonna have the same ringing endorsement. Cedi Osman, 28%.
I mean, I would like less than 28%. I think he's 50 or maybe 5,200. I think might be the number on
5,200
on Chedrick there. Look, he's going to try to bludgeon his way towards some value. He's going to have to play all the minutes in the world. He's going to have to take all the shots in the world. And a decent spot for him dealing with a lot of Tobias Harris, who is a bit of a liability on defense for this team. So I'm fine with it. I would have a little less, but I kind of like Cedi tonight. So I will dislike that, but only very slightly.
All right. Take me through it. We've hit on all the Daddy Likes questions. Take me through this Milwaukee-New Orleans game, because I'm intrigued by it. We talked about pieces of it. The New Orleans side, less so. I want to hear your thoughts on those guys, but obviously I think let's talk about Giannis and all that too. Eric Bledsoe as well. Also, I've noticed in the last month and a half. So this is a pet theory I've had. I don't like Eric Bledsoe in games that aren't competitive, because I feel like he just plays down to the competition quite a bit. In pace-up spots, he's been killing it, though. He's played Sacramento, Washington, and the Lakers in the last month and change. He's been really good, above 50 fantasy points in all 3 of those. One of those was an overtime game. I'm intrigued by Bledsoe here. I think people aren't on him a ton. But tell me about this game, Eddie, and which guys you're liking the most.
Yeah, for the Bucks, for me, it's Giannis up top, just as your best spend up tonight. I mean, 12,000, 11,500 are significant price tags for Giannis, but I like a lot of the value, and by extension, I'm more interested in raw point squares, and that's just where that comes down, is he's my highest raw point scorer tonight, so I really like Giannis. I really like Jokic for that reason. But after Giannis, it is Bledsoe for me. I think it's a fine spot for him. I think the upside is really there. Difficult for me to have both of them, but certainly not out of play. And then third for me would be Brook Lopez, and then probably Middleton, and then Brogdon in tournaments. And then Mirotic, I don't think is out of play either, but it is a very, very good matchup. I'd want to make sure I had a buck in most of my lineups. You could get a random even distribution of production tonight, and no one could get there, but I'd be surprised. Not a team I'm super looking to stack for a couple of reasons, but yeah, I agree with the Bledsoe love. I like him a lot. The DK price is still well too cheap. The FanDuel price is also still pretty cheap. So, yeah, Giannis, Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, the third for me of that. This does strike me as a spot in which you could randomly get the 4 blocks and 7 3-pointers out of Brook. Yeah.
What about the Pelican side?
That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Got Frank Jackson shooting 20 times a game in the last 2.
Yeah. No, that's
which is all he does, but I think interesting.
Yeah, I don't dislike Frank Jackson. Again, we're talking about bargain sort of point guards I like, who cost 3 and a bit. He costs $5,000 now. It's not a great matchup, although he has the sort of the game type that best profiles to deal with here. If you're telling me I have to play one guy, it is probably Frank Jackson, followed by Randall, followed by Elf. I like Elfrid Payton. I might have mentioned during the show before the last game that he might get a triple-double in that game, and he did, so it's always nice when that happens. I probably would actually have Anthony Davis over Elf. This is what I consider to be sort of a bad spot for Elf. And there's, obviously blowout possibilities. So Frank Jackson, I probably even like a little bit. I think the ownership should fall way off at 5K. I do think this is a spot you could get 30, 32, 33 out of him. He just wouldn't get a lot of play from me because, I would not play a lot of anyone on this team. But the order in which I'd be exposed would probably be Jackson, Randall, Brow, Elf. I don't even know.
Getting a question about Darius Miller. Is he a good pivot from the cheap Bulls and Cavs? I think actually he's interesting to me. I think either he or Kenrich Williams has a shot in an outlier day because the way the Bucks defend, they're always going to leave one guy open from three. I think it's one of those two. But How do you feel about Darius Miller and
we
Kenrich?
kind of just got our Darius Miller game, but he's cheap.
Sure.
He's 34 on DK and 4,000 flat on FanDuel, I think. I'm fine with that. Especially if you are building more balanced and don't have all these other punts. But even if you're playing more solid punts like Arcidiacono, who you're probably going to take his 20-something score a lot of the time, and you're just I'm willing to try Darius Miller. So Darius Miller's not out of play for me, but I would generally rather play all the Bulls guys we're talking about, just because as much as he does profile alongside with Frank Jackson as just guys who will shoot some threes, guys who can maybe get there against the Bucks. It's still not a great spot for them. The pace is nice and all, but I would still rather look at Bulls guys against the Lakers in general. But Darius Miller at the 4% you're going to get him at, I think is good, yeah.
All right, let's see what else we got. Got a couple single entry questions, or at least one here. Lillard or Doncic for a DK single entry? And while you're talking about Lillard, give me some Trailblazers thoughts about everybody who's not Nurkic.
Much less appeal for everyone who isn't Nurkic. I would probably this is again an oversimplification, but in general, what you see in this game is 40 out of Lillard, 45, 35, 30 out of McCollum. I'd be more interested in McCollum at those numbers. If you look at Lillard Beverly games, it does reduce Lillard. Instead of getting, his profile against the rest of the league where he bangs out an average of 45, 46, 47 and occasionally, hits 65, 70, 80 ceiling or something like that. If you look at the pretty significant number of games he's played against Beverly, I'm pretty sure what you'll find is a lot of the time he normalizes in the high 30s and low 40s. I don't think he's ever quite gotten to 60. Removing that ceiling cap for me and the fact that the price isn't quite as great as it's been, it's actually significantly higher than it's been for a while. I would rather play Luka Doncic at this point, who just profiles a little bit better for me. I think I have him projected for 7.5 points higher, so that's a pretty significant difference for me. Other than that, on the Trailblazers, obviously love Nurk. Obviously, by extension, like Enes Kanter, who gives you some great leverage against the field if you get foul trouble on Nurk. Guy might play 22, 24 minutes, and again, the matchup does not get a whole lot better. So I'm fine going there. I'm fine playing McCollum, a bit more of a cashy play, but that can play out that way. I don't know. Mo Harkless, maybe. There's a couple questionable guys. They have both Hood and Turner questionable. Am I getting that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so you can throw a bullet at Al-Farouq Aminu or Jake Layman, but not a team I'm super targeting. They've had 3 very very good games with the Clippers this year, and the last of them, as the pace has started to tend up a bit, was super high scoring in regulation. They had 250 or whatever points. The first 2 were slightly more tepid fantasy affairs, but not a team I'm overwhelmingly targeting just because nobody's price is that great outside of Nurkic's, who's completely insane.
I guess you sort of talked about this already, but thoughts on CJ for a FanDuel GPP?
I'm fine with it. He would be, my number 7 shooting guard for a GPP. I would rather play Luka at 10. I would rather play DeRozan at 9. I'd rather play Clarkson at 5. I'd rather play Middleton in a similar price range. But I don't have any issue with it whatsoever. Like, I slightly prefer those guys, but there's not large degrees of interstitial space between them. I'm fine with it. I'm thoroughly ambivalent. Man.
All right. AD or Gallo? Who has more raw points on DK?
I have AD projected for 3 more, so I guess I got to stick with Anthony Davis.
Any Derek White love? His price is up a little too high for me on DraftKings, but what do you think, Eddie?
I think his price is about right on DraftKings and too low on FanDuel, where I think it's 65 DraftKings, only 63 FanDuel.
I'm not paying over 6K for Derek White personally, unless it's like a perfect matchup.
Okay. Watch more Derek White. He's really, 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 really good.
I liked him versus Atlanta. Like, I thought he did a really good job both visually and on the stat line, but I just don't see him having enough of a ceiling to want to pay up that much for him. But that's just me, though. I could be wrong.
He has a 50-point ceiling. And had whatever. I mean, the difference between the Hawks and the Mavs is not as great as I think you're making it out to be. Obviously, just the pace isn't there, but Mavs D, and especially in the backcourt, is pretty shitty. But yeah, I like him quite a bit in tournaments. There's no way he would price in. I would rather play him than Elfrid Payton. Here, I'll put it that way.
All right. Any other notes you want to hit on before we work through a bunch of these either-or type questions?
Let's see. Tobias Harris too cheap on FanDuel. I think I alluded to that previously for a minute, but it appears like it needs an extra mention there real quick. Don't hate Jamal Murray in tournaments. Love Jokic. Jokic is just $10,000 Jokic. He has not been great recently, but has just ginormous goddamn ceiling in this spot.
Hasn't broken 60 versus Minnesota in his career, which I thought was interesting.
I can't specifically. That doesn't jive with my gut, and I don't have the log in front of me, but I have him with 2+ marks in the matchup with Towns. So that is.
I'll double check, but no, he has high as 56 fantasy points in OT last year.
Okay, interesting. Good tip. Don't particularly care. This is it's him who's got all the ceiling in the world. Is an incredible basketball player. Obviously, your rebounding upside is downed a little bit with Towns if he's going to be in there and playing again. But 10,000 is just too cheap for Jokic. Full stop in most situations. Certainly against Minnesota, which I still consider a strong matchup. Their defense has been really, really bad. And I think I might actually prefer him with Towns in. Be close. Going to hurt your rebounds, but it's better for everything else as opposed to dealing with Taj the whole time. I like Ben Simmons on DK. Another guy who I've heard a lot of pushback, and now that Embiid is in, and that matchup's really good. The upside is really there. All these guys are just like, look, I can see them putting up a massive score. Ben Simmons had 60 against Cleveland the last time they played, among other things. 8,600 for Ben Simmons is just too cheap. Maybe it's, a blowout, which people have brought up to me, but it's worth pointing out that Cleveland beat Philadelphia in Philly earlier this year when Philly was undefeated at home and Cleveland had not won on the road. It was literally the most unlikely game ever. And they beat the shit out of the Raptors last night, so I don't know a goddamn thing, but maybe that game stays close. But I still legitimately like $8,600 Ben Simmons. How popular do we have him being now?
We have Embiid at 6% on DraftKings.
Ben Simmons, though.
Oh, so they said, okay. I thought you said something weird. Simmons we had higher. Now he's down. Where'd you go, Simmons? Hold on. All right, Ben Simmons now down to 22%.
Yeah, that's still a little bit more than I'd want, but anyhow, I still think it's a perfectly strong play. For the Nuggets after Jokic, it's a pretty clear second for me of Jamal Murray. Pretty third of Millsap, who I think can get there in this spot. I don't really want any of that wings mess. Let me pour through my notes. Go ahead and fire me a question if you want while I look for anything relevant.
Jacob Poeltl, people are asking about non either ors, and I don't want to take 10 either ors about Jacob Poeltl. So thoughts on Jacob Poeltl?
I like him. I am starting playing 27 minutes. I think the matchup is better than average. It's still Jakob Poeltl, but on FanDuel he makes a sort of logical pivot from super chalky onto Zizic. I don't recall his DK price, so I'm gonna go look at it. 46. Again, I don't think I'd get to a lot of it there. He's 900 more than Zizic, and there's a lot of guys whose price starts with 3 who I like a lot in value, and he's center only, so don't think I'd get to a lot of it there. FanDuel at that number, I'd certainly have some Jakob Pertl the Turtle.
All right. Can you double back on Wagner for a DK GPP? I guess we're probably have some people tuning in who are curious about Mo Wagner. I'm very team Mo Wagner, but Eddie, your thoughts on Mo one more time?
I like him a lot. He's an uncertain quantity. Matchup's obviously great. Gonna play somewhere between, I can see, as low as like 18 minutes and as high as like 33. That team is very, very hard to forecast right now. I like him a lot in tournaments at 3,300. I don't have any interest in him at 5,000 on FanDuel in that position.
In a cash lineup at center for FanDuel, would you say it's better to play Jokic or Zizic?
I would say, in general, in cash, I would probably rather play Zizic.
Yeah, I think that the ownership should be a little higher there. I think pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never seeking high ownership when I play in cash. It doesn't really factor it into me. I want to build the best, most consistent score I can, and like if I thought Zizic was going to be the biggest scoring fantasy day of my career, where I made $75,000-$80,000 and just happened to also put my cash lineup into all the GPPs and won several of them, was when I had Tyler Zeller at center, who I was convinced was the best play at center before they were dropping center on FanDuel. This was on FanDuel. And he was the minimum, and I was like, you know what, I just think my best way to go is to pay down with this guy. I think he gets me 26, I think I had him projected for. No one else played him. He went out and scored 37, and I made a pile of money, but I don't much care about, you know, how popular someone is going to be. If I really liked Jokic's, if I thought my Jokic construction was better than my Zizic construction, the fact that it's less chalky doesn't bother me.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like for me, as a general rule, I try to go with the ownership as long as it's a guy that I'm buying into.
How do you win then?
For cash, I mean, just usually I usually have one guy in there who I'm a little more confident about. The field isn't like I had Lou Williams in cash the other day, which certainly not the most logical thing, but I trust the spot and I trust when I could pick out the spot. Okay. So that's usually I go with a lot of the ownership. Our ownership projections are the most helpful for me for cash.
Okay, well there you
go. Let's see. DK, speaking of DK cash, would you go AD and Markkanen or Mo Wagner and Giannis?
I'd probably play Mo Wagner and Giannis.
Here's an interesting one. Would you leave 1.1K in FanDuel salary on the table to play Millsap, or would you pay up for AD in a tournament?
I'd probably play Millsap.
FanDuel cash, Sexton and Clarkson or Arcidiacono and Middleton?
Sexton and Clarkson or Arcidiacono and Middleton in cash?
Yep.
I'd play Sexton and Clarkson. It's worth pointing out that I find it unlikely there isn't some way to improve your team with $1,100 on FanDuel tonight. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like I can see like it's you know, if that guy wants to ring back in, who are your shooting guards, which strikes me as a spot where you can almost always incrementally improve with $1,100. Who are like, so I just if you happen to have a secondary back, I'd be interested in seeing your lineup there. Kyle Kuzma won't have a minutes limit, but will be monitored. Go F yourself. Well, thanks for that completely worthless piece of information there.
Wait, who was that about? I'm sorry, I missed who you were actually saying.
Kuzma doesn't have a minutes limit, but will be monitored.
Oh, okay. That's helpful information. So how would that affect your love or lack thereof for Kyle Kuzma?
Doesn't change it. I presumed I hoped he wouldn't have minutes. That's a plus for him. That means that if he looks like he's tired and shagged out, then they'll pull him out a little earlier. But that's not incredibly likely. He's a baby and in pretty good shape. So I would like that. The fact that they've specifically said won't have a minutes limit, to me, means there's a very good chance he runs out and plays a butt ton of minutes.
All right. White, Rondo, or CJ for a DK GPP?
I would play White. Get at me later if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'd play White there, boys. I'm a big fan of him. He's really good. Summer League before that was a guy I've talked about a lot. So yeah, I'd play the White Whale there.
I would go CJ, but I get where you're going with it. Plumlee, two separate questions about Mason Plumlee. Any interest in him, especially with Jokic, I guess, being one of the higher owned center plays?
Yeah, I ranked him as a C in cash and a B in tournaments. Not really good enough to make it into your cash lineup tonight with all the other good value, but there's always a guy who's fine to run in tournaments and is very much like Cantor versus Nurkic in that you're hoping to get some leverage against the field where not only is a popular guy going down, but you're specifically profiting from it. So, okay.
Thoughts on Darren Collison for DK Cash?
I think he's great in cash. No problem. Yes, please. 5,900, him in a good matchup is a very, very good cash play.
Simmons or Luka for DK Cash?
I would take Simmons in cash.
Let's see. I think we got a lot of these. Oh, here we go. FanDuel GPP, Middleton, Lou, and Giannis, or Doncic, DeRozan, and Gallo?
The first one, Middleton, Lou, and Giannis. Barely.
DK Cash, AD, and Markkanen. Oh, wait, no, we did that one. Dotson or Sexton for a DK GPP?
I'd probably stick with Sexton today. Not a guy I like to roster a lot, but the matchup's really tough on Dotson. I can see doing it, but I don't expect Sexton to have that much ownership. I would think mid-teens or something. If it ends up being higher than that, then Sexton, 21. No, at that point I'd probably play Dotson at a far smaller number. That's enough to get me to pivot off there. Yeah, Dotson 2%, Sexton 21. I'll play Damian Dotson at that point. With the full understanding, hopefully, that, yeah, it could go all kinds of shit-ass crazy.
Luka or Ben Simmons for a DK single entry?
I'm still going to barely stick with Ben Simmons, but I'm largely ambivalent. I have Luka projected a little bit higher. Ben Simmons is much safer for me, and I think the ceiling is there, so I will still stick with Ben Simmons, but that's very close. I have no issue if you want a Luka, but there's a little uncertainty there. I don't want to bagel my 9K guy, so I will barely go with Ben Simmons.
Okay. How much done for tonight in a FanDuel GPP if you were MMEing?
$5,900 done. I suspect probably in the mid-20s to the high 30s in percentage, so around 40 shares and 150 I think is about where I would target. I like the matchup a lot. He's been bad, but I think 30 minutes and likely more than that in fantasy points at a somewhat weak point guard position. So, maybe a touch less than that because I would overweight on Derek White. But, yeah, it's about there.
This question. Tolliver, Collins, Fry, or Dirk for a FanDuel GPP? You should just pick Collins just to get back for your other Collins non-pick.
I'm gonna take a minute and actually look into this, but not the position I want to punt again for what it's worth. I like a lot of power forwards, but Fry. It has to be. Like, I don't think any of them are likely to get there, but if I got to pick the guy who I can see somehow getting there, I guess it's gonna be good old Channing.
Miro or Redick for a FanDuel GPP?
Redick. I like Redick a lot on FanDuel. Like 5,500 small forward that checks a lot of boxes. I like him a lot. He's one of a few small forwards that I legit like. So Redick there for me pretty significantly.
Okay. FanDuel cash. Would you go with a punt, Doncic and Aminu, or Clarkson, DDR, and Kleber?
The first one. Very close. But the first one I'd go with the pure punt there, I guess is what you're intimating.
Late to the party tonight. Can Eddie give a quick recap of Minnesota, who you expect to play, etc.?
Apparently Towns will play. I don't have a strong clue on everyone else. I'm guessing Wiggins will stay out just because when you're out multiple games, when you say questionable, I tend to defer slightly more towards being out. I imagine Teague plays. I'd say I have no damn clue on Rose. I'll go 60-40 Teague plays, 60-40 Wiggins doesn't. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. White or Bledsoe for a DK GPP?
You had to do me like that, didn't you?
Want to make it hurt a little.
If you have no other Bucks, Bledsoe. If you have Middleton or Giannis, I will play Derek White there.
All right. Embiid is out. Embiid is not out. Why is that?
Pardon?
Somebody asking Embiid is out, multiple question marks? No, he is, unless there's something.
No, Jimmy Butler's out. No other 76ers, to my knowledge, are
out. Thoughts on TJ McConnell for DK Cash, speaking of Sixers?
I won't go with unusable, but he'd be pretty far down my list of guys I want to play in cash.
Interesting for a tournament, but not
Yeah,
cash.
Interesting for a tournament, but that's just a perilously low flow there. Like, it's just much worse than, like, say, Arcidiacono. You're playing cash, Arcidiacono is almost certainly going to get you 15, probably 20, hopefully 25, 30 wouldn't shock me. Like, McConnell is going to give you a number between 8 and 30. Like, in tournaments you want to run it, I'm fine with it, but, yeah.
Apparently, FanDuel sent out an alert that Embiid was out, but that is inaccurate. He is in the Sixers starting lineup, which is on Twitter, so that is... No, he isn't.
I'm nervous seeing that, though.
Yeah, that's not great. Unless
FanDuel,
maybe FanDuel's got a spy in there. Who knows?
Don't joke, bro. I don't know what's going on there. FanDuel rarely gets that shit wrong. Is my entire, like, I'm not trying to do a thing or whatever, but we're under a minute, so not a ton we can do at this point. But if you have a quick pivot, that gives me 2% uncertainty or something.
The Sixers tweeted their lineup 5 minutes ago. I feel like that can't have changed in 5 minutes.
I will go ahead and say 19-1, 95-5 that FanDuel just fucked up something.
Hopefully.
Still, 5% chance is enough for me to go, like, you know what? Maybe I'm going to look somewhere else for this if I have a quick click, fix something. And we're at log, so...
There. Well, enjoy having Joel Embiid as your drop if somehow FanDuel's reporters were somehow right. I can't imagine. That's laugh. Literally, it was tweeted at 6:54 Eastern time that Embiid is starting. So that'd be a curveball even by NBA standards. Let's do Daddy Likes, but also we got a couple questions here which I think are still relevant. Who to run back from Denver with Towns for a DK GPP?
Jokic? Yeah. Jokic, Murray, Millsap in that order would be my preference.
I actually agree with that. Harris, I'm interested in, but he's been really, really boomer bust. He had that 35.5 point day. Everything else has been horrendous. So, interesting value though. Doncic or Dame, who has more raw points on DK?
So they corrected it. Someone put a link in our chat where at 4:54 p.m., and I'm assuming this person is in Mountain Time. Am I getting that right? 4:54 p.m. Embiid ruled out. 4:55 p.m. active. So they corrected it a minute that going forward in time. It appears like they went, whoops. So
that's weird. I'm not one who buys into the conspiracy theories. Like, I know we get some on our YouTube channel as well of people who are like, oh, you guys are all like pooling together so you get the players and then we don't. Like, I don't buy into any of those types of things anywhere. There's been a lot of wonky things with NBA DFS this year, which I don't recall in previous seasons in terms of guys being ruled out like 1 minute after lock and guys being in and out.
Always this way. Always this way.
I mean, the Smoothie King thing of last year will never be topped in my eyes. That was rain day. The rain out day where they were. I think it was a Pacers-Pelicans game, which looked fantastic from a DFS perspective, and it got rained out, and all the players were just ineligible.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing new. That's the third condensation game in the last 5 years. The famous one about, I want to say 3 years ago, was the Spurs and Timberwolves in Mexico City, which went out due to a fire. My God, there's just some weird shit.
It's a strange sport. All right, I don't think there's any other relevant questions. If you have a question, guys, that's still relevant, drop it into Slack now. We'll get it before we go off because I know we kind of jumped around a little with the questions.
I forgot. I'm looking at the thing.
Actually, here's one, but it won't be relevant now. Jokic or Embiid for a DK GPP single entry.
I'd probably stick with Jokic there, but I'm fairly ambivalent on that. Zizic 53%, by the way, which probably would have been enough for me to say slightly dislike, because again, I was thinking about half my lineups, but at that point, it's a pretty, that's about the right number for me. Again, for every player, there's just an ownership at which I want it and an ownership at which I don't. And for example, an ownership at which I don't, Chetty Osman, number 2, 30%. I want less than 30% Cedi Osman.
Yeah, I'm way under that. I put a few in just because I was like worried about not having any, but I'm not buying Cedi at all today.
Yeah, I mean, their theory. I mean, looking at this, I want Jordan Clarkson. Here are your Cavs. Are you ready? Ante Zizic, 53. Cool. Cedi Osman, 30. Feels a bit high. Colin Sexton, 20. Feels closer to right. Jordan Clarkson, 8. Now, you're right. One of those guys is probably going to have to put together a game here. And you're paying more for Clarkson, who was like $5,800 on DK or something. But I'll pay the extra $600 to not get the 30 and 20% owned guys. In between there, Ben Simmons, 23, as expected, just fine. Joel Embiid, 12.3, feels good. Tobias Harris.
No fake alerts on DK, throwing people off. That's why.
Yeah, there you go. Knocked it down. Tobias Harris, 12. Darren Collison, 10.5. But less than I thought it would be, so I don't hate that too much. Sabonis, 8.3, I don't hate either. He's been really good against the Knicks a couple times this year. Completely irrelevant, as they're an entirely different team on the Knicks at this point, but if that does anything for you. Bojan, 7.6. Brandon Knight, 7.5. Yeah. Damian Dotson, 6.5. The Deuce, 6. JJ Redick, 5.5. I like that a lot at 5,200. I'd be happy with that play. My boy, David Nwaba, 3.5. Get in there. I think he plays 30 minutes. That is the source of my appeal. May that be a more accurate prediction than my Ian Clark prediction of a few days ago. Miles Turner, 3.3. Gotta like that against the Knicks. TJ McConnell, 3.25. Okay. Butler being out does help him. Pushes up the minutes a little bit. I think he's good in tournaments at 3.25%. Wouldn't want to do it in cash, like in tournaments. James Ennis, 2.3. No, not at that price. No. DeAndre Jordan, 2. I like it. Noah Vonleh, 1.75. I like it. Wes Matthews, 1.6. I like that. Corey Joseph, 1.37. I like that against the Knicks. We're on a streak here. Nick Stauskas, 1.15. Oh, stop liking things. Mitch Robinson, 1%. I like that. Dennis Smith Jr., 0.89, like more on FanDuel. But I like that at 1%. I'll take 1% Dennis Smith Jr. Like, even in a tough matchup, he can get 40 in 30 minutes. Dicey, I wouldn't be thrilled with it, but I'd like more than 1%, I think. Alonzo Trier, 0.72. Okay. Kevin Knox, 0.55. Really now. Boban, 0.53. Okay. Mike Scott, 0.4. Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Mudiay-Zorg, 0.3. Channing Frye, 0.26. I really like that. I don't know what to tell you. It is not crazy that he has to play 25 minutes tonight at minimum salary, and he's not good.
Can I just say one funny Channing Frye note? So I put in standard deviations to my stuff because I just wanted to get a better read on guys who are underperforming and overperforming. It's been really helpful. Channing Frye's floor to me, and as just my projection being a little wonky, came out as a negative 20 because I guess his per minute standard deviation is so high that it thinks he could possibly have a negative 20, also have a 50-point day.
That's brilliant. That's exciting. I like
he will not have a negative 20. I feel pretty confident about that.
Kadeem Allen, 0.15. Is he with the team? It would not shock me if I don't remember that. Last I knew he was not with the team, so I will continue onward. But I'm not sure he's with the team. Kyle O'Quinn, 0.14. Odd tonight. Aaron Holiday, 0.14. Jonathan Simmons, 0.07. I like that a lot, believe it or not. Like, John Simmons is not a good fantasy basketball player, but he's going to... Him and Ennis and Korkmaz, basically, Brett Brown came out and said, like, I'm going to use these guys in different fashions, and they're sort of going to rotate through and fight for time. Cool. Korkmaz is hurt for a while. And so he's just fighting with Ennis. If Ennis, sprains an ankle, I'm not saying it's great, but 0.07%, I like more than that. Doug McDermott, never the answer, 0.05. Henry Ellenson, 0.03. Marquise Chris, 0.03. Congratulations. You played yourself. It's not nice to try to punch people. Although
so did Marquise Chris. He played himself when he responded to a man trying to strangle and beat him to death.
I feel for him.
The one time, he's really an asshole of a human being and very surly, but he wasn't at fault in that one.
He's no fucking Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka has thrown a punch or balled a fist in motion to do so against at least 4 guys that I can remember, including the guy I'm least interested in throwing a punch at in the NBA, James Johnson.
Oh, yeah, a trained MMA and mixed martial artist guy.
Who, again, my favorite basketball claim ever that he hasn't done, he said he could crescent kick a basketball down that was wedged between the rim and the backboard.
Wow. I would like to see that. Should be his dunk contest.
I would like to see that. That is Like, when I was young and spry and surly, I could jump and throw a pretty good crescent kick or wheel kick or even a reverse one, and I maybe could get it 7.5 feet off the ground. Maybe. And I might be giving myself more credit than I'm due here. 10 feet. God damn it. Like, you have to be spry. Like, I guess. But anyhow, that's something I'd like to see.
In my most limber, I could kick to my face. I think that's about as much. Jumping and doing that would have been a catastrophe for everybody. That would have been a torn groin.
That's the thing. The real reason he can't try to demonstrate it and do it is, how do you safely land? Because you're obviously getting some, like, you're spinning your leg up over your head and contacting, which is going to give you some reverse like, you need some really significant stack of mattresses to attempt that maneuver. Like, there's a real chance of breaking neck.
One with the trampoline guys, so they have that padding underneath just in case.
Shout out Jaron Blassingame, 0.03%, also not present. Larry Nance, 0.03%, also not present. Kevin Love, 0.01, also not present. Tyreek Evans, 0.01, also not present. Jimmy Butler and Tristan Thompson also receiving votes.
The second grade class not getting snacks today with all those people absent.
Those who are late do not get fruit cup.
Beat writer tweeting that Tyus is in a white jersey working out with a starting lineup, says XXX Achilles XXX. So would you read the tea leaves there and try to put some Tyus in?
Yes. Okay. I am a big fan of Tyus here. I like him more than any of the Bulls value. If you can make that move, I would like Tyus more now. My final... And by the way, you guys in the show, I'm legally not allowed to enter contests. But I do take your feedback and occasionally make changes. When the guy asked about Tyus on the show, I thought about, I really like that more. He is in the FanDuel GPP lineup, I think I ended with. I think I took the time to click it in when the guy was talking to me. Shit, yeah, he's in there. He's in there next to Chris Dunn. So, good shout out. There are frequently times on the show where someone brings something up and I haven't actually thought of it. So I appreciate well-informed questions. The matchup with Denver isn't great, but at the ownership relative to what you're going to see Archie Diacono and even Harrison at, and Tyus Jones is a better basketball player than both of them. So, big fan of that if you had that extra $200-300 to spare. So, good question.
Yep. All right. Apparently one last note from Rinpack. Andre Ingram is not the minimum on Yahoo. He is $13. He wanted you to know that.
That is a great note.
Andre Ingram was fun last year for a 35-year-old guy getting his first run or whatever.
He's only 33, which is interesting. But that was a great. I am a softie. I didn't tear up, but I love that shit. Shit. I wish they were playing in LA tonight because I'd have talked about them. They're in Chicago, not talking about them.
Yeah, that's like a Will Smith movie waiting to happen.
It really is a Will Smith movie waiting to happen. It's if Kevin Hart wasn't a midget. I'm trying to.
Yeah, we need John David Washington. He's got to carry the tall enough black guy mantle to be able to do those movies, I think.
Sure. You gotta be bigger than a certain height.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on before we call it quits?
You must be this tall to star in a movie as a basketball player. No, I'm good. I'm back again tomorrow. I'm back again apparently forever. Like, we're gonna have to pool our money, or I'm gonna invoice the higher ups at Osmo to get me a therapist or a massage chair or something, because there's no end in sight with 6 to 9 games every day for 2.5 weeks. It's a glorious time to be alive.
When does the season end this year?
I don't know the date offhand. It tends to be April 15th, give or take a day or two either side. But we started early though, right? Yeah, but that was to space. Like, we started early because people are like, less 4 and 5s, less 3 and 4s. Like, so I don't believe it. The 10th, April 10th. Jesus, we're under a month. My sadness.
Wow. It's going to be real peak silly season for when everybody's tanking and we get these guys rolled out 1 second after lock or before lock.
Sadness is legendary. Last 7 days of the season, this shit is hilarious. You ready? All right, we'll go with the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 days of the season. 4 games, 12 games, 3 games, 13 games, 2 games, 14 games, 0 games, 11 and 11.
Oh boy, the 14 game write-ups that I'm gonna have to do for the switch and hedge, and then do a video about guys who are gonna get ruled out while I'm doing it. You might witness me jump off something.
I again, to introduce a little bit of game theory, I love that. I honestly think your best way to make money is being smarter than people, and the more decision points that appear, the better it is for you who have a good brain and a good process. So I'm a big fan of April basketball. It's random as fuck, but that doesn't mean that there's less skill involved. Things can be very, very random, like, say, playing poker, for example, and still have a massive amount of skill attached to them. So I love crazy-ass basketball. But yeah, again, the last 9 days of the season, 0, 2, 3, 4, 11, 11, 12, 13, and 14 games. Nothing between 5 and 10. So the opposite of what we're doing right now. We're in the middle of 17 consecutive days of between 6 and 9 games. There are no 6 and 9 games in the last 9 days of the season.
People in the YouTube chat are still giving fake news things, saying Dame's out for rest. Dame is not out for rest. You're getting banned, mister. Said fake news, JK. No, you know what? Still, I think I got to send a message. We don't like fake news here unless FanDuel gives it out personally. So
we don't like fake news unless it's sponsored by our friends at... No, I'm just kidding.
If it's sponsored by our friends at Thrive Fantasy, they can give us all the fake news they want. Yeah, no, don't do that. If you're a person in chat, please don't do that. Like, I know you think you're going to be getting one up, or it's like a fun troll.
Here's
and you're
the reason why, for me, that's a wag of a finger and not a ban, is because it's 7:13. That at 6:50.
I like sending a message. I liked having public execution so people remember.
That's fine, but that is about as effective as what you're doing. But the at 6:58, I think it's a death bannable offense. Don't fucking do that. When the main slate has locked and no other slate locks for an extended period of time, and anyone is going to double check it, and the actual harm done is probably 0, other than being a dork and wasting people's time. I'm just saying, for me. Again, I don't ban Hammer much, but that's where I draw that differential. You know what I'm saying? If he does that at 6:58, yeah, I think that's burned on the cross.
I don't know. We got enough people in this chat. I'll take out everybody who throws me a cross-eyed look.
Yeah, what are you doing? We're trying to raise that viewership number. Every guy you ban, fuck.
They can still watch. They just can't participate. They can just be little cups.
Oh, all right. Then we should ban everyone then. Fuck participation. More of me, less of you. Who used to say more of me, less of you? There was some pop culture fantasy or sports guy who used to sit in there and go like, so we're going to the phones, and then he'd get done with the phone calls and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be honest, that one was shit too. You guys are not good. You know what makes the show better? Less phone calls. More of me, less of you. I remember this guy was saying that, and I'm like, and I didn't disagree with him. I was just like, that's I enjoy hubris. I enjoy the waft of a Tommy G. I enjoy some hubris.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it could just have a no fake news rule. We do have a no fake news rule. Don't put fake news. That is the rule. So that's why.
That is the rule. I'm saying the penalty for the rule, to me, should vary on the damage done, which is why when you fire a gun in a legal place, you get a fine or go to jail for the week. And when you fire a gun and it hits someone and they die, you pay a more stern price. No one's going to die when he fires.
Chairman Spags has no time for this.
Yeah, except for hanging Judge Spags. He's
oh well.
When the hangman Chris Spags catches you, you hang.
You do. That is a promise. I will execute everybody. But thank you guys for watching. Again, hit that pin tweet on Osmo_com. You can go get access to all of the important things that we have on Osmo.com. If all you do is retweet, tell us what your favorite sporting event you want to go travel to. It could be anywhere in time, but the pin tweet will tell you what to do. Win a free month of Osmo.com for yourself and all your friends. So go check, well, not all your friends, 2 of your friends, but for some of you out there, that may be all your friends. So check it out now. Check the pin tweet. Go do that. Enter it now. It's a great way to win some freebies.
That's more friends than I have, as my wife likes to tell me. Like, I have a lot of internet friends, and I'm generous and I give stuff to people, and I occasionally buy friends and stuff, but actual friends I hang out with, yep, that number's under 2. I'm just in my house.
When you get older, you don't really need to hang out with that many people. It's not popularity contest is over, I think.
I guess, yeah. I might go try to play basketball tonight for the first time in...
You deserve it. I think you could find some friends out there.
2.5 months, and I like those guys, but they're all 20 years younger than me, and when we hang out, it's because I buy them stuff in exchange for letting me, smoke a little or whatever. But actual friends, let me put it this way: people who are not in my immediate family, who I speak to at least once a week, who I don't work with, whose last name I know, is 0. Yep.
I have one friend out here whose last name I don't know because I think he has pseudonyms online. That sounds shadier than
it's been weird. I had a lot of my life where, again, I owned a retail store for 12 years. It was a retail game store. So I literally sat there and I was the founder of the Feast, and we played games 100 hours a week. So I have infinite friends. Friends I liked. I'd go to their weddings. They'd invite me to theirs. Like, friends. And now I'm in my basement all day. None. Just none. And it doesn't bother me is the weird thing. Like, when I think about it, I'm like, it's weird, honey. I don't have any friends. None. Zero at the moment. Like, I occasionally, guys from high school, hey, I haven't spoken to you in 3 years. Like, that's my... So, I don't know. Which is just... It just strikes me as strange, because I don't think that's the condition for a lot of people who aren't about to murder everyone in a small town.
I'll tell you one weird thing. There are girls I've dated in the last 5 years who I never found out their last name. And it was not even like, this isn't me bragging or anything. It's just like no organic way to figure it out if you didn't, do the Instagram or Facebook friendship or whatever it may be. And they'll just forever have one name in my memory and my phone book.
That's great. All right, buddy.
Welcome
I'm killing it. I'm knocking it dead.